What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit live stream here on YouTube and Twitch. Hopefully, you guys are joining us uh, for another show. If it's your first time, welcome. We're here to talk some fantasy football, talk sports betting. We're going to talk some NFL draft tonight. Usually, some combination of the three. And we'll see where this conversation takes us. But as always, it's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Kyle? I know we're only 8 days away, but this is quite possibly the most anticipated NFL draft of all time, being that it's going to be the only live sporting event that we're going to have for months in the foreseeable future.
I'm ecstatic to have something that's not tape delayed. I mean, between the draft and the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls ESPN doc that's getting set to premiere this weekend, like next week is going to be amazing. I'm very, very, very excited to have something that is sports related that I don't know the outcome to, that I can be excited about, that I can wager on, that I can have some fun with. And I'm really excited for some old people on Zoom calls where it's like, Dave Gettleman has his face right up against the webcam. Jerry Jones thinks he's muted and he's just saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I'm so excited. And there's going to be so much unintentional comedy coming out of this that I think it's going to be fantastic.
Just as long as it's not anything like what the NBA's horse competition was.
Yeah.
I only saw videos of that, and wow, was that a travesty.
I don't know how that works because somehow Mike Conley got to be indoors while everyone else had to be outdoors. And he had his home indoor basketball arena, which is dope. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't seem like a very fair playing field. But I saw enough reactions to it on Twitter to feel like I'm good on not checking that out.
Yeah, I had no inclination whatsoever to watch that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't miss anything.
No, it sounds like we didn't miss a lot. I saw enough videos. I saw Zach LaVine standing outside. I saw Paul Pierce getting eliminated. That's about all I needed. And I was like, I'm good. Just a heads up for everyone who does join us live on YouTube, who does join us now on Twitch. We will be live on Thursday next week for the draft. We'll hop on around 9 Eastern, maybe 10 or 15 picks in, and kind of hang out through the second half of the first round. Obviously, react to all the picks we don't see live, and then also have the ones that we do have live. Hoping I'm securing some guests to hop on and talk draft with us, talk fits, talk fantasy outlake, see what all this stuff is. There's obviously a lot of, Brian and I are both really excited for the draft, but see, to actually put players on teams and see how it kind of pans out should be awesome. But Brian, I think we should dive into what we came to talk about. And that's some NFL draft props. I have Bet Online open. That's where I got these numbers, and I want to kind of see how the numbers are moving, and we'll see how it goes. If we can always throw some other questions in, but we'll start with these and get where we're getting. And let's talk some running backs, because I think there's really three names in this class that are seemingly heads and tails above the rest. That's DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. That's Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. And that's J.K. Dobbins out of The Ohio State University. I mean, you probably recognize Dobbins pretty well from him running in front of all the Michigan defenders, just to the house over and over and over again.
We'll just say Ohio State running backs have been the bane of my existence for, I don't know, over a decade now. All I can envision is Carlos Hyde breaking free at midfield and just running for a 65-yard touchdown.
And then Curtis Samuel just arms
Curtis
out.
Samuel, it's sickening just thinking about how many times we've been burnt by Ohio State running backs. So, yeah, I mean, but, to no avail. These guys are all really good at the college level, and a lot of them proved to be just as good and produced really well in the NFL. So Dobbins' prospects are as good as any of those guys.
So let's talk about it from a betting perspective. So right now on Bet Online, we're looking at, let me find it real quick. Okay, so the first running back drafted, DeAndre Swift is your favorite at -200. Jonathan Taylor at +200, who a lot of people are actually saying is probably the best running back in this class. I don't necessarily agree, but that seems to be the consensus. And that's fine. Yeah, and I honestly, if you want to say that, there's a lot to like there. And the nice thing about us being Big Ten fans is we get to watch a lot of Jonathan Taylor, and we got to watch a lot of J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, when I put this sheet together, was 9-1 to be the first running back taken. A few mocks have kind of penciled him in towards that bottom of the draft. And now his number is kind of down to 7-1. I actually got it at 10-1, so I'm feeling pretty good about that in terms of value. The field is 12-1, but I just I'm looking at I'm looking at some of the names that may go in that conversation, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, Eno Benjamin. Like those are the names that would potentially be in that quote unquote field category. And I just don't see any of those guys going over the top three.
No, I mean, if we're looking at guys that kind of translate to the NFL and trying to be like a bell cow style back, it's easily those top three names. But, when talking about draft props, I mean, who's going to have the best fit for a specific scheme? And, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's getting all this tout over the last couple of days as being the best route runner of the group, and in a league that's predicated on passing. He could wind up sneaking into that back end of the first round if a team were to trade up as their pass catching option.
Yeah. And as I'm looking at my Titans and how much I like I could see a world where they take Edwards-Helaire as the top overall running back, then pair him with Derrick Henry. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's tape is incredible. In an offense that had so much passing, that was so open, the fact that he was able to kind of be involved. As a runner, I see a lot of Mark Ingram, but I think there, as a passer, there's a lot more there. But talk to me Jonathan Taylor, in terms of your favorite running back of this class, a lot of people's favorite running back of this class. I know fit is a thing, and people need these versatile backs, but I think the fact that just because Jonathan Taylor doesn't have a lot of pass catching on tape doesn't mean he's incapable. I mean, if you've seen the people that have quote unquote played quarterback for Wisconsin the past few years, they leave a lot to be desired.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bank on him not really being not really being a thing, but at +200 for a guy that many people think could be the best running back in this class, that seems like a nice little bit of value there.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little kind of deeper dive on him, and if you look at his statistics, he's almost ran for 2,000 yards 3 consecutive seasons. He has toted the ball over 300. Use one of those last picks in the first to kind of beef up the running game, where they were the worst offense when it came to trying to run the ball, as Ryan Fitzpatrick led the team yards. So to them, running is a major need, and if they need a guy who could run the ball in between tackles, I think Taylor would be a good fit there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a true 3-down workhorse all-purpose back, I think he definitely fits the bill. J.K. Dobbins is my favorite running back in this class. I just think he does so much of what Taylor does. And I mean, you're really picking, it's really tight with those two for me. DeAndre Swift, I see how he is the favorite though, because I think the team that, if you're looking just kind of in a vacuum, obviously lots going to happen. Teams are going to trade towards the end of the back end of the first round. teams like Seattle are going to take Rashad Penny, and nobody's going to really see that coming. But in terms of just the way it sits now, like Kansas City seems like a team that needs running back help, that is kind of loaded everywhere else. Like obviously they could use some defense, they could use some offensive line help. But if they went DeAndre Swift to pair with Damian Williams, like I don't think that is crazy. Like a lot of people have mocked that, and it seems to make a lot of sense. So I'm guessing that's where the basically minus 225, like lay 225 to win 100 on him. Like I get kind of where that number is coming from and where the sharp people may be like kind of looking that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just like probably an overall talent aspect, I think probably Swift probably does fall into their category as being the number one guy. And it's because it's so difficult to kind of predict any sort of trades of teams jumping into the end of the first round to take a back, or most of these teams need a lot of other positions to fill. So taking a running back who we're seeing all these dudes get major money and then getting released, like Todd Gurley, the position has definitely taken a hit in value. And why would a team really try to jump into the first round and take a guy when they can get similar value in the second, third round? So I still think Taylor falls to me as like the best overall back. I think he fits a lot of team schemes if they want to be able to run the ball in a more traditional way. But I was looking at Mel Kiper Jr.'s mock, and he has Swift going 32nd to the Chiefs as well. So
yeah,
it's looking like Swift is the overall favorite.
So Swift is really exciting. Like he gives me Alvin Kamara vibes, like incredible playmaker, versatile, can do a lot, and kind of fits really well with another running back. I think the other thing with this draft is when you get into the back end of the first round, where a lot of these running backs would come off the clock, like you said, they're either teams that don't need running back help, or they're teams that could use running back help but need so many other things on top of it. And like I'm looking at New England at 23, but like they've done this song and dance with Sony Michel and all these guys, and they now Damian Harris is going to get more touches. So like who knows what they're going to do? Maybe they take a quarterback. I don't know. But yeah, I think I was looking at kind of where a lot of these teams fall, like the Titans, I think maybe, but they do have other fits they need. They need receiving help. They could use some offensive line help. Maybe another defensive tackle now that Jarrell Casey's gone. So if you had to bet it though, is Jonathan Taylor, like, is that where you're putting your money, or are you saying, well, Swift, he fits the Chiefs, makes too much sense, that's where I'm going to bet?
I would probably go because this is such a difficult position to kind of predict when it comes to the draft. Like we're looking at the first running back is being projected to be taken 32nd overall. So I'm going to look at somebody who's kind of near the top as being favorited to be picked first, but also still giving me plus money. So that for me is Jonathan Taylor. Yeah,
and I think that like I don't hate doing that. I'm still going Dobbins just because even at 7-1, like I feel like the potential payout on like a $10 bet, like give me $70 and call it a day. And I think he's just as good. And who knows, like teams do weird things. And a lot of these guys might not be first round picks. They might no running back might go in the first round, and they all may go bing bang boom off in the second round. And if you're looking at teams that could go in the second round, there's a lot of teams that early in that second round that could make a lot of sense for landing a running back. Let's shift.
It's going to be a crash for sure.
Yeah. Let's shift our to focus and talk some wide receivers. There's much like running back, there seems to be kind of an elite list of names, although it is a little more open, it seems. But it seems like Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs are kind of where the favorite is. Right? Jerry Jeudy is at plus 120, CeeDee Lamb plus 160, Henry Ruggs 225. The field at 33-1, I think, is definitely interesting. Like we've talked about with running back, I think there's a lot of different options at receiver where kind of depending on which team you're looking at, who could potentially go, what kind of fit they, do you need a big X? Do you need more of a Y, like a slot receiver, a guy who can kind of do under the safety, middle of the field type, plays. What does your team need? So I do think it's interesting, but in terms of these three receivers, do you have a favorite? Is it one of the Alabama guys? Is it CeeDee Lamb?
Man, these three guys are really difficult to kind of separate amongst each other. I mean, Henry Ruggs is kind of looked at as the burner of the group, kind of fit in as like a Mecole Hardman style player where you could just take the top off the defense. Whereas I think CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are both kind of those like traditional style outside receivers who could eventually turn into being a team's number one option. So I think it really kind of goes between them two as to who's going to be taken off the board first. And it's going to be team by team preference. For me, I've seen more of CeeDee Lamb. I got to see a lot of like night games with Oklahoma. I always work on Saturdays, so I always missed all those midday Alabama drubbings. So Jerry Jeudy was kind of escaping me most of the year, but he's Jerry Jeudy is another one in the lineage of Alabama receivers with great feet. Great route running well to the NFL. So I could see both Lamb and Jeudy going really early, probably in the top 10.
Yeah, and honestly, like CeeDee Lamb, like if you just want to have some fun, just go watch him against Texas, and like the plays that the dude makes, he'll catch the ball with like 5 Longhorns around him, like spin around, juke. All of a sudden, he's in the end zone. All the other guys are just laying on the ground, like a Bruce Leaf, kung fu movie. Like he just takes them all out, ends up in the end zone. Like he's just unbelievable. Jeudy is really impressive. I've heard some scouts say the best pure route runner they've ever seen, which, I mean, considering some of the receivers that we've seen in the league, that's high praise. If you go to playerprofiler.com, a spot where it's good to get some information on receivers or prospects in general, obviously take the comps with a grain of salt. This is kind of what they could be if they're, they hit their ceiling. But CeeDee Lamb's comp is Jerry Rice. So I feel like that's a pretty good comp to have. Yeah. So the fact that he, has the pedigree, does a lot of stuff that really pops off, and should be a high first round pick. I think that definitely does a lot. I guess for me, I don't know that, like, if I'm betting this just based on numbers, I think the field might be where I look. I don't necessarily. I think CeeDee, like, if I had to bet one of the three, CeeDee Lamb would be my pick, especially just because, like, and we'll talk here in a second. But the Jets at 11, the Raiders at 12, the Niners at 13. Like, that could be 3 receivers right there. Carolina's probably set at receiver. The Chargers don't go receiver that early. Miami's probably not going receiver that early. The Giants, maybe. Like, is there a world where the Giants take one of these guys at 4?
I mean, Sans, Odell Beckham, they really don't have that playmaker on the outside. So, I mean, I don't see them taking them at their first pick, but I could see them get back into the first round to try to snag one of these guys. And then let me just circle back real quick on the odds here. CeeDee Lamb, when we first kind of analyzed this, was at 1.5 to 1, and he's now tied with gosh dang it,
Jerry Jeudy.
With Jeudy as being the top wide receiver taken. So there's a lot of people thinking that CeeDee Lamb may be taken first now. So
yeah, it's really interesting. You'll see mocks come out, and then you'll see the odds adjust because people will run to the betting odds to throw down a little bit on. Oh, I saw this guy's name on a few mocks, and he could be the number receiver. Like, and that's the thing with this is, like, CeeDee Lamb and Jeudy, like I could totally see either of those guys. So for me, that's probably a non-bet. But, like, the field's up to 40 to 1. Like, if Like, I don't think it's gonna happen, but like Brandon Ayuk's getting a lot of love.
Denzel
Justin
Mims.
Denzel Mims out of Baylor, Justin Jefferson out of LSU. I love me some KJ Hamler. He'll probably go to round 2, 3, but a guy. I mean, there's just that, and that's part of what I'm wondering though is like, okay, so the Niners have that second first round pick. So if there's a stud defender there, if there's cornerback help, which they significantly need, does one of the receivers fall past them? Do the Raiders, draft defensive help instead of drafting receivers there and try and get one later? Like Lamb and Judy, I think, are probably worth going above what the rest of the class is. But after that, it's pretty open, and I think there's a lot of names that could make a lot of sense. So, if I only want to throw, a couple bucks just to see what happens and, get some value, I think 40-1 for it to be Justin Jefferson or Denzel Mims or one of the guys we've discussed, I think is, I don't think it's crazy.
No, when we're talking about purely betting odds and the way that we've mentioned this multiple times before on our pod, like we're looking for value and the likelihood of one of those guys in that second echelon of wide receivers possibly sneaking in because one team falls in love with them, I'd take that bet over, betting $1.15 to win $1 any day. We didn't even mention T. Higgins, who was basically prior to the last couple of games of last year, right up in there as one of the top wide receiving prospects. So he's another guy with huge NFL size that could sneak in there.
I love me some T. Higgins. His season was a little frustrating, I think, for a lot of people. I did see on Twitter Jared Smolas over at Draft Sharks at Smola DS, if you want to check it out, was posting some stuff. Bob McGinn does a basically polls the scouts and kind of sees where their head's at and to get some rankings for as we head into the draft. Lamb was 1, Judy was 2, Ruggs was 3, Jefferson was 4, T. Higgins was 5, and Brian Edwards was 6, a guy out of South Carolina. I've been watching a little bit on him. I see some of the stuff that would make them excited, but and then Denzel Mims way down at 11. I am getting some like Josh Doxson or the draft hype train is gonna push him, and then he's gonna go to the NFL and he's just kind of not gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of all of these guys hitting is not likely at all. So,
right.
I mean, one of us or many of us are going to be completely wrong on the CeeDee Lamb prediction or Jerry Jeudy prediction. I mean, if he's getting the kind of praise as being one of the best route runners these people have ever seen, he better live up to that, or there's going to be a lot of people crying over spilled milk. But yeah, even Chenault out of Colorado, there was a lot of talk about him towards the end of the year. He's kind of faltered over the draft process, but wide receiver is stacked.
It's really interesting to see some of that happen. Like I remember going at the end of last year and beginning of this year, Grant Delpit was a guy that in mocks was going top 5. Now it seems like he's not going to even go in round 1. Like a lot can change over the course of a year. And it really seems like it's funny because it's like the more tape we get, the more we watch somebody, the more we start picking out their flaws and they start tumbling. And sometimes it's for the right reasons. Sometimes it's overanalyzation. But it really is interesting to kind of see how this goes. So.
Yeah, team needs really fall in, especially when you get to the later parts of the first round and kind of in the second round. Draft boards get completely tossed out the window, and you start to see teams fill needs as opposed to just best overall talent. Yeah.
Before we talk, I got some exact pick numbers for CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. They have an odds for which of these 4 receivers will go highest. It's LSU's Justin Jefferson, it's Baylor's Denzel Mims, it's Arizona State's Brandon Ayuk, and it's Clemson's T. Higgins. Jefferson right now is minus 275 to be the first pick out of the 4. Mims at 3-1, Ayuk at 7.5-1, and T. Higgins at 10-1. Like that. T. Higgins is interesting.
That sounds like great value.
Ayuk is interesting. Like of this because you're really going on team need, and I mean I guess we could just dive into it now. But like the over under for number of receivers drafted in round 1 is 5.5, and the over is minus 300. So that sounds like 6 or 7 receivers potentially could go in round 1. And that, like, I get, like, it's a passing league and this class is loaded, but this class is also extremely deep. So if you're like, you might see some nice values of some other positions. And like the Niners could trade 31 for a team that wants to come get a quarterback and go into the second round, get one of their receivers. You could see, there's a lot of teams that could look at second round players, and a bunch of those names, like Michael Pittman, we haven't talked about. I really like USC.
I saw him at the Holiday Bowl, and he's legit.
Yeah. Brian Edwards, T. Higgins could be there. Lynn Bowden Jr. could be there in round 3. Like there's a lot of interest. Jalen Reagor at a TCU.
Hey man, I gotta throw out a guy from my school, Donovan Peoples-Jones. He does not get a lot of talk because Michigan has, under Harbaugh, kind of went to a more traditional style offense, but he's got good size, he has good hands, he has good jump ability. I think he could be a steal in the second round for some team.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you guys didn't go with the Wisconsin theory of not having a quarterback and actually ran somebody out there who could throw it forward. Like, he would be flying off the draft board. But unfortunately,
if we had Chad Henne over the last 3 years, it would have been a completely different offense. I'll just say
absolutely. Chad Henne now, it would have been a completely
yeah. Even the 40-year-old Chad Henne, yes.
All right, so let's talk about some of these guys. So right now, CeeDee Lamb. The over-under is set at 12.5, and the under is getting pounded right now. If it's, I
just have a hard time betting the favorite part of that for a single prop. My whole mentality is, I was just going to mention the Super Bowl. I never bet anything that's negative money in a single prop like that, unless it's guaranteed.
And now it's up to minus 170. I'm almost taking the over just because we just talked about it, right? Because you need him to go. You need him to go either 11 or 12, which I guess if the Jets and Raiders boom receivers, then he's gone and the under hits, and that makes a lot of sense. But the Browns aren't taking one, the Jags aren't taking one, Arizona just got Hopkins, they're not taking one, Carolina probably not taking one. If they do, it would be Justin Jefferson. Just because of that Joe Brady connection, I guess. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. The Dolphins aren't taking one at 5. We talked about the potential of the Giants. Probably not doing that, but I could see them taking one.
I could see them trading out of that spot to get more picks and then taking a wide receiver later in the draft, but they're not taking a wide receiver that early.
Yeah, especially if the Chargers want to jump Miami and get up to 4, and then they fall back to 6. They get another pick in the first round or second round or something next year. There's a lot they could do. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I just the potential of it not happening, I think, is greater than it is of it happening. And I know those two teams are both sitting there and they look really tempting. But if I can get, let me see, plus 130, I'd much rather do that if I had to bet it than take the minus 225.
Yeah, it's a non-bet for me, but yeah, I would go with the plus money.
Let's talk the other receiver, Jerry Jeudy, also under at 12.5, minus 170. Let's see if his number has moved. Jerry Jeudy, minus 170 still. So yes, the experts in the betting public are pretty convinced that those guys are going 11 and 12. And I feel, if you want to, take both of them and take the over, I feel like you can make some money there.
So we just had a question here by Momentum Wins. Where do we see Brandon Ayuk going? I mean, being that he's kind of in that middle tier of that next kind of group, he could go anywhere from 15 all the way to top 10 in the second round. I mean, it's going to be based on team need for me.
Yeah, I mean, Denver makes sense. I think they're still looking for somebody to pair opposite Cortland Sutton. I think he could make a lot of sense there. I don't think the Falcons are taking. I don't think your boys are taking one after. But I could see maybe the Raiders go defense and then take him at 19.
I was just going to say I like them there at 19 to take a guy like that.
I think the Eagles need receiving help. He could make a lot of sense there opposite Alshon. And I could also see him if he ends up in the back end of the first round. I think he makes a lot of sense to the Niners, assuming they keep pick 31. I think they'll probably trade, but just because that pick is so like the last 2 or 3 is so traditionally someone trades in to get something, whether it's usually a quarterback or if there's like a defender that happened to fall a few too many picks. But yeah, I think Ayuk goes in round 1 and somewhere but in the like 15 to 30. I think the back end of the second half.
He goes back end.
I think Denver's his ceiling, and I think probably somewhere in the early second is his floor.
Yeah, another team too is kind of a dark horse there is Minnesota. I mean, they just shipped Stephon Diggs out, so they need kind of that playmaker opposite of the shore-handed Adam Thielen. So
yeah, and they need an explosive
that would be
receiver,
a good
guy.
fit. Yep.
Makes a ton of sense. But yeah, I mean, and all these receivers, T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, like there's so many of them that going over on 5.5 receivers, like it seems like a lot, but like it's probably the right move.
Yeah, I mean, we could overthink this, and kind of how you were mentioning, like because it is so deep of a position that teams would they could potentially decide we're not going to take a wide receiver because it is so deep. But that's getting too analytical here. I mean, if we're going
into the first and takes Jalen Hurts or looks at in that second round at Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, it's really interesting. Like some of these quarterbacks, I think needed some of those pro days to throw and to show off some of their skill, whether the college offense didn't really suit them or they're Jacob Eason and they just have a gun and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't really see a guy like Eason fitting with New England. I do like more of like a Jake Fromm there because he does seem kind of sense. Yeah, he's more of like a ball control style quarterback, which would fit Belichick's scheme of great defense. Let's not turn the ball over, run the ball. So
yeah,
but I think that's more in the second round, not first round for the Patriots.
Let's keep that quarterback talk going because I think there is some interesting names. Let me see where. So who will be the second quarterback taken? Like, I feel like we came into the year with Tua being the guy and kind of everyone else being an afterthought, and now there seems to be a debate, and we'll see how serious it is. And we're talking about teams that, like New England, might need a quarterback. Trading up for Tua, like there's a lot of things New England does. Like I think you think there's no chance. You think there's no chance they go up and say, let's set up the next 10 years of this team. Belichick's like, all right, I'll set the foundation. I'll leave. So when I leave, you guys have a stud quarterback and you can build because Belichick no chance.
No chance in hell. Belichick is not concerned with what comes after his reign is over. He's concerned with right now, and I don't think a rookie quarterback, somebody taken that early in the draft, is going to help them when they want to solidify everything around the quarterback first. Build a team that they can get somebody in there like an Andy or a Jake Fromm who could not turn the ball over. I just don't see them up early.
They just went 20 years with probably the best quarterback to ever play the game. Bill Belichick,
who was drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah, like the Brady's and Montana's come around ever so often, and then it's kind of a lot of early picks. I don't know. I'm probably with you. Like it probably doesn't happen, but like it's kind of fun to think about Bill Belichick like going. Now that I got him, let's just
balls to the wall. Like
so, but yeah. So Tua is minus 190. Let me get up to date odds just to make sure it hasn't moved too much. Bear with me. Where's it at? Let me see here. All right, so so Tua is gone from minus 190 to minus 125. Justin Herbert's gone from plus 135 to minus 120, which is very interesting. Like, good luck with Justin Herbert. Like, I like some of the stuff he did. He's an athletic move quarterback, but like he has some decision making that really makes me scratch my head. Jordan Love is a distant third at 28-1, and the field is 33. The field isn't even I don't even think worth talking about. Like,
not even in the conversation.
Yeah. So like, I think we've seen, like, I know the concern around the medicals for Tua, but I think the fact that he was able to kind of put the video out of him throwing and moving and looking pretty good, I think is going to help a lot. But like, are teams getting too cute and overthinking this, or like what's the deal? Why is this so close?
I mean, to be honest with you, I'll begin like I'm not an expert by any means looking at quarterbacks, but
I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night.
Yes, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn. No, between the two of them, I got to see a lot of Justin Herbert living out here on the West Coast, and in big games against good teams, he never showed up. Now, I can understand the kind of knock that Tua played with elite talent around him, and so a lot of times the competition wasn't really up to what they were putting on the field at Alabama. But when we're looking at like just being able to make throws consistently, Tua is head over heels better than Justin Herbert when it comes to a consistency rating, and the fact that, he's dealt with adversity in his career and he's come back. He's shown that he's been able to recover from this hip injury. Like, I think that does play into a lot of like his competitive side as well, and his ability to lead a team to a national championship. So, I'm taking Tua all day, every day over Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point. Like, I really have a hard time with how to judge some of these receivers and or quarterbacks based upon the talent around them, right? Like, you look at Tua, he's got Ruggs and Judy, both guys who probably going top 15. He's got Devonta Smith, who, had he come out this year, was getting drafted high, probably going to be a top 15, 20 pick next year. He's the guy that caught the winning touchdown in the national championship when him and Tua stepped on the field. And how do you look at that? And then you look at other teams that have garbage at quarterback, and you need to grant like some, like Quintez Cephas out of Wisconsin. Like he feel like we keep ragging on the Badgers, but you have to kind of value, okay, how does the receivers, like the reason Zach Mettenberger went as high as he did is because he had freaking Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and all these guys that throw the football to. So like Taj Boyd, the same thing. Taj Boyd had Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, and all these guys. Like
Boyd, wow.
Yeah, I'm pulling in the way back.
Predecessor to Watson.
But so it is interesting to kind of figure out how to judge these. But like Tua, I have some questions about, but like I was watching some Judy and some Ruggs just to catch up on some draft stuff, and I kept watching Tua, and he's so good. He makes so many.
He puts the ball in perfect places. Like he has precision passing down.
Yeah, and obviously having elite receivers, ones that run really good routes, obviously helps. And he does sometimes make some predetermined reads and just lets it rip. But like the difference between him and Herbert, like I don't know, it's night and day. Like
I mean, and then to kind of go back on your thought about like the whole talent aspect, like when you look at Justin Herbert though, like he was playing for an Oregon team who a lot of people believed was by far the most talented team in the Pac-12 over the last 2 or 3 years, and they were never able to put it together fully. And Herbert never really kind of came into his own as that elite quarterback in the conference. Yeah. And he was being outplayed by 3 USC quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, I think if you put Herbert in an offense that's not run by Mario's crystal ball, I think it might look a little different. Like I think there's a lot of issues with him as a play caller and kind of what Oregon was running out, and they were able to win the Pac-12 and dominate Utah, and so I mean I can't, and then look good in the Rose Bowl, but I can't. I don't know, like.
I don't know. He looks like an NFL quarterback. Like he has traditional size and he's really athletic, but just some of his throws are yeah. And I was just thinking about this as we were talking. Like some people are probably going to say, well, Josh Allen looked like crap too, but he played at Wyoming with literally good trash cans catching balls for him, and yeah, he has no accuracy, but he brings a different aspect to the game. Like he can bulldoze over guys. He's the Cam Newton 2.0. I don't see Justin Herbert doing that.
If you watch that game against Utah where they actually did some zone read concepts and let him run a little bit, he looks so much better. Like I don't know. He definitely has some Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch, even Drew Lock. Like I feel like I'm just going back to Denver. Like John Elway.
Hey, don't knock Drew Lock.
John Elway is just like pants around his ankles, watching Justin Herbert tape, just so excited. He's so tall and so dreamy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, if Drew Lock hadn't really like shown, I don't know. I am wondering though, like who the quarterback is of this class. Like, there's gonna be one that everyone's gonna, and I worry it's Jacob Eason. But it's the one that everyone's going to trash talk and say he's so bad, and he's going to go higher than he probably should. But like Josh Allen was like that. Even Daniel Jones was like that. Even Drew Lock to a lesser extent. Like people made fun of these picks and like how could you do this? And these players are terrible. And maybe not for real football, but at least good enough for fantasy, where these guys are names that we're drafting and we're considering, like Josh Allen and Daniel Jones are both like top 12 options next year. So like there's gonna be somebody. Maybe it's Kelly Bryant. Like I have a lot of questions about him because he couldn't do it at Clemson, he couldn't do it at Missouri. But someone like that, or maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's Jalen Hurts.
I was just gonna say Jalen Hurts, as much as us Wolverine fans kind of have some hatred towards him for never really delivering. Shea Patterson, when he committed to Ole Miss, he was considered the best dual threat quarterback in the nation. So who knows if he's able to kind of put it together and he fits into the more like RPO style systems in the NFL. And again, it's going to go back to who wants to put in the time to build an offense around a guy's specific skill set.
Yeah, and Shea Patterson, like I wanted to be excited. Even as much as I hate Michigan, like I thought that was going to be a great fit. And you guys were finally going to have a quarterback. And I was wrong. Boy, was I wrong. Let's talk total quarterbacks. So the first round prop, total quarterback selected in round 1. It's actually dipped a little bit. When I looked at this initially, it was minus 140. Now it's minus 120 with the over and the under. I feel like obviously Burrow's a lock. I think two are Herbert are both first rounders. So then the question is Jordan Love a first rounder? And that only gets you the push, even if it's just Jordan Love. So is there a world where Jordan Love and Hurts from Easton, whoever, Anthony Gordon, end up in the back end of that first round? Like, can we see 5?
I would kind of lean towards the under, just because I really think we are going to probably push. Like, I could see a team like New England maybe taking a chance on Love back end of the first round. But other than that, I don't see a lot of teams putting an emphasis on a guy who really doesn't have a lot of good tape out there. He's just another athletic guy didn't have a lot of talent around him. There's a lot of other needs to be filled. So I would kind of go towards it's probably going to push, but I would bet the under if I was going to place any money on it.
I'm 100% with you. Like, I'm looking at teams kind of drafting in the back end. Like, is there a world where New Orleans drafts Drew Brees' potential replacement? I know they let Teddy walk. I know they paid Taysom Hill, but that's a team that has a lot of talent that doesn't necessarily have a ton of needs. And if they want to, they brought in Manny Sanders to be opposite Michael Thomas. Like, this would be a good class, and obviously they could still go receiver there. They could still fix the defense a little bit more. But if they wanted,
I still think there's two teams that could sneak in there and surprise people and taking quarterback, and that's going to be Atlanta.
mm-hmm.
We don't know how long Matt Ryan is going to be able to withstand playing, and then also Jacksonville. Like, are they sold on Minshew mania, or are they going to take another shot on a guy late in the first? So, and Jordan Love could be that guy.
So I think Atlanta makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you shared that tweet with me about them kind of keeping an eye on some of these guys. So I think they make a ton of sense. They're really an interesting spot because obviously they have Julio, they have Matt Ryan, they have pieces to win now, but a lot of the rest of the roster is kind of like more of a rebuild. Like, I wonder if there's a situation where they look at some of these teams, like, is there a world where Matt Ryan ends up on the Chargers? And, we've seen a draft day trade between the Falcons and Chargers. Matt Ryan's a Charger.
That helped both sides before.
The Falcons hit the reboot, get their first this year and something. Maybe Julio goes elsewhere. Like, it would probably be frustrating for Falcons fans, especially with the new jerseys that they're going to have to wear. But I think there's a world where they take somebody. I think New Orleans could make sense. I think, but like Miami and Jacksonville are interesting because I feel like they're really eyeing towards next year and potentially landing Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at the Mel Kiper Jr. draft mock draft, and he has Miami taking Herbert at number 6 overall. I mean, I guess that's kind of, they would lean quarterback. I would think that they would prefer to take Tua.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he has a higher upside. But honestly, I think they should be playing towards next year and just building more draft capital to try to take Lawrence and build around what they have. Like, their defense is going to be good. Their offense is starting to get some pieces. I just don't think like a quarterback for them is the right move yet, even though that's kind of where they're expected to go in the draft.
Yeah, and obviously, like, they see Ryan Fitzpatrick or whoever is going to be their quarterback, and like they just kind of okay, right. I'm with you. I don't think it happens. I think they're going to keep working on the defense or the offensive line. I think the same thing with Jacksonville. I think Tampa Bay could be a team that makes a move and kind of jumps up and grabs one of these quarterbacks, especially a Love or a Herbert or even Tua, where they could have 2 years to kind of like. There's supposedly a lot of love between Bruce Arians and Justin Herbert, which, if you know anything about Bruce Arians, makes a lot of sense. But if they have the ability to bring in Herbert and give him 2 years to kind of figure out the system, learn under Tom Brady, have a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers type situation, and it also protects them where if all of a sudden Tom Brady turns into what Peyton Manning was and his arm just kind of falls apart, you have a safety net to catch you. So, I think it's something that could make a lot of sense. All right, Brian. I think that is going to do it. So before we get out of here, I want to know, what's your best bet? Anything on the board? We can go off the board. Anything that stands out to you as, this is where my value is. This is where, and if you have a couple, go ahead, feel free to throw them out there.
It's been really difficult for me to kind of look over all these props for the draft. But I think the one that I like the best for just kind of looking at going back to the wide receiver position, it's going to be at amongst the group of Justin Jefferson, Denzel Mims, Brandon Ayuk, and T. Higgins. I actually like Denzel Mims to be the first one taken off the board amongst them at 3-1 odds. So, I like that to be, pretty good bet to happen.
Yeah, and obviously you're getting a good value on a guy that has the upside, that could be out of that group jumping, that seems to be getting buzz, seems to be getting a lot of and obviously, buzz on Twitter versus buzz in reality doesn't always line up, but there's a lot to like there. You know, it fits the NFL receiver mold. I think that makes a ton of sense. I still love J.K. Dobbins as the first running back off the board, even at 7-1. You know, obviously that's more of a longer shot, but I think it is interesting. I also think I'm looking. There's some. Will these players be first round picks? And you know, there's some like okay, so like Jonathan Taylor plus 225 to go in the first round. Like that's interesting to me.
As
I
a Jonathan
also
Taylor backer, I like that.
I also think there's a few that you could kind of put together, and you could take Brandon Ayuk, and you could take let's see here. So you go Brandon Ayuk, you go DeAndre Swift, you throw in maybe T Higgins, and you get yourself a nice little parlay there. There's a few names that really are interesting, and like you could pair them with a Justin Herbert drafted in the top 5, and make yourself a nice little parlay there. But yeah, for my best bet, I'm going J.K. Dobbins as the first running back off the board. If I set the over under at 1.5 running backs taken in round 1, are you taking the over? Or taking the under?
Oh man, I'd probably go the under. I just don't
Yeah.
see teams putting that much value on the position in the first round.
It's really interesting because like even with like you know the way the NFL's trending, there's still been a lot of like teams taking running backs in the first round over the past few years. Even like the year Rashad Penny went, like teams do weird stuff. There's still a few teams, but yeah, I'm with you. If I had to put money, it would definitely be on the under. All right, Brian, this was a lot of fun. It's good to catch up. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you mash that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you join us next week for the NFL draft. We will be here on Thursday, not Wednesday, but Thursday, watching it live, reacting live. I'm lining up some guests to come and hang and join and break down all these players, talk about fits, talk about fantasy potential, talk about players that they may be replacing that could be headed elsewhere, all that kind of stuff.
Draft day trades.
Yeah, so make sure you subscribe, whether it's Twitch or YouTube. Following us on Twitter at FPAOP, so you get all the latest updates, so you can know when we're live, all that good stuff. Make sure you are leaving comments. If you have players that you want us to hit on, if you have fits that you think really make a lot of sense and you know you want our reaction to, leave them in those comments. Like let us know, and we're happy to answer them. Join us live and ask us questions. If you're listening on you're listening on delay, or you're listening on Spotify, or you're listening on iTunes, like come hang out, come join us, be part of this conversation, and we'll figure it out. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.